G'day, I'm Adam Gordon, the Profits Leak Detective, and a very warm welcome to you all to this Cash Optimisation Report, a 5-minute interview with an expert in small business. One of the things that I've found with small business over the years is that stress can really adversely affect profitability and cash flow. And today I'm joined by Brian Carroll. Brian's a qualified psychologist who was founder of a Melbourne-based corporate training business called Performance Development. For more than 20 years, Brian has been assisting organisations to develop their capabilities of their key people in areas like leadership skills, performance management, and how to recruit, retain and engage their staff. Brian's an experienced executive coach who has a particular passion for supporting business owners and building and budding entrepreneurs to bring out the best in themselves. And Brian's going to talk to us today about staying resilient and coping positively with stress. Brian, a very warm welcome to you.
G'day, Adam. My pleasure being here. Looking forward to our chat.
It should be good. Now, I've got some questions I'm going to ask you, Brian. We've got around 5 minutes. I'm not going to play police on this in terms of that, but in terms of the 5 minutes. But the idea is to keep it short and sharp and see what we can do to help those people out there, those small business owners and managers out there. So, first question. We hear a lot about stress. Is all stress bad for you? And after all, wouldn't you say there are many people who go into business because they're motivated by a challenge?
Yeah, look, good question, Adam. Absolutely. People go into business typically because they're motivated by a challenge, and a challenge brings with it a degree of stress. But what we're talking about here is the right degree of stress. Too much stress can be counterproductive. Not enough stress can lead to boredom, can lead to complacency. So certainly life brings with it challenges. Going into starting up and running your own business, of course, will be stressful. And some of that stress will be positive in nature. It will be motivating. It will be energizing. It gets us up off our backside and gets us moving. But what we've got to be concerned about is the degree of stress. And too much stress has been shown by science, by numerous studies, to have counterproductive effects. And so from a business owner's point of view, what we're looking at is being sensitive to getting near that too stressed state.
Yeah, look, I've certainly seen it. I've had clients over the years where stress, well, it's had that adverse effect. You know, they've been unable to make decisions, or they've made bad decisions, or they've just taken too long to make decisions. Yes. That's some of the things I've really found. So let's move on to the second question. What types of stresses would you say small business owners tend to face when they're running a business?
Well, the biggest one I think we would both recognise would be cash flow issues, Adam. There can be a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry about being able to meet the bills. I think over the years we've both seen, particularly during that first 1 to 2 years, the uncertainty around a new business model, and sometimes despite a solid business plan, predictions don't always bear fruit, and revenue flows are not always necessarily as positive as what we'd envisaged. And so that can create a lot of strain, a lot of tension, a lot of anxiety within that first few years. So yes, cash flow would be a big stressor. A second common stressor that I've seen in business owners would be overwork, overloaded. Part of that is connected to a tendency to say yes too much. Yes. That reluctance, that fear of losing the business, never wanting to offend, never wanting to run the risk of loss of a new customer. And so sometimes agreeing to timelines or customer expectations that are simply unrealistic and unreasonable. And consequently, that the business owner's simply taking on too much and becoming overloaded. A third source of stress that I've seen in the workplace would be conflict. The business owner perhaps who starts taking on new employees, and as soon as you get a group of people together, there can be different personalities in a workplace. And as soon as you have different personalities, there's the prospect of disagreement, and that degenerating into conflict and tension in working relationships that can become a source of stress for business owners, perhaps who aren't yet skillful in managing performance issues, for example, in the workplace. They're just a few that come to mind.
And I've seen all those in my time. Not being able to say no had a detrimental impact on a business. As you say, they're afraid, if I don't say yes to this customer, I might not get another one. I'll turn them away. You never know, then they might not be the right customer, and we've all had the customer from hell.
Yes.
So yes. Look, I've seen lots of examples of all three that you gave there. Okay, let's move on to the next one. When an entrepreneur is not handling stress and pressure effectively, what are some of the effects that this can have on their health and on their behaviour?
Yeah. Look, it can have so many different effects at different levels, Adam. Firstly, in terms of physical effects, over more than 20 years working in this field, I've dealt with business owners. I've dealt with senior executives who've suffered from excessive levels of stress that impacts them in terms of headaches, can impact them potentially in terms of disrupting their sleep. Can impact on their blood pressure, can impact on their digestion, can contribute to ulcers. They're just some of the physical signs, physical effects. In terms of emotional impact, of course, stress can trigger anxiety. It can trigger irritability. We may become a bit more volatile in our emotions. In terms of impacts on performance, you've already touched on one. Absolutely, decision-making can be affected by too much stress. We may become either impulsive in our decision-making, or alternatively fearful and paralysed by the fear of making the wrong decision. Too much stress can impact on our perspective. As a business owner, we may lose that capacity to recognise what's a $1 issue, what's a $100 issue, what's a $1,000 issue here. The loss of perspective. Stress can impact on our working relationships, on our personal relationships. I've seen people become isolated. They isolate themselves from their friends and from their families and from their working colleagues as a consequence of too much stress. So it can certainly have different impacts on different people. But again, what I'm touching on there, Adam, is when the level of stress has become excessive.
Right. Yep.
Again, if I can just make the point that work and life is going to carry a degree of stress, and that's what can make life and workplace interesting. Again, what we're focusing on is being alert to that point where it's becoming excessive and those impacts are becoming dysfunctional.
Some of those things, and the way people react to them that I've seen, is that they think the only way they can solve the problems is to spend more time at the office. So it becomes a 7-day, 10-hour days, and that's what the week's like.
Really good point. And on the one hand, isn't it passion that drives an entrepreneur? they can become obsessive. Their work can become their life, and absolutely, when you're doing what you love, it doesn't feel like work. But taken to an extreme, that passion then becomes an obsession, and there can be a complete loss of balance in the life of that entrepreneur. And again, if you've got good quality people around you who you trust, sometimes they're the ones who can give you a tap on the shoulder and remind you, hey, slow down.
Slow down a bit. Yeah.
There's more to life than your business and work.
Well, Brian, that's been really, really useful. How do people find you?
Yeah, thank you, Adam. The website is performancedevelopment.com.au.
Right.
And there is a blog attached to the website, and there's a lot of material, Adam, on the theme of personal development. There's a lot of material on coping with stress. There's a lot of tips on how to run a small business, how to grow the small business. I want to thank you for the opportunity to share with your listeners today too.
I'm sure they'll find that very useful. Thank you very much, Brian.
It's been my pleasure.
Yeah.